Good evening, good evening, everyone. How you doing? If you're watching this later on, I want to thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for all your support and sharing videos and liking videos, and I love your comments. For those who have been supporting the channel, I appreciate your support that you've given to the channel, and that is always appreciated. Not asked for, but definitely appreciated when it is done. And I ask you to continue to share this channel so that we can continue to grow and get better in our relationships, because we know the downfall of any society is the downfall of the family and downfall of relationship structures. So today we are going to discuss, and hopefully we'll get a lot of comments in here. We are going to discuss why people aren't getting married as quickly as they used to at younger ages like they used to, and see if maybe these things are affecting you, affecting your life. Maybe this is your reason why you haven't gotten married yet. Or if you are married, it affects your reason of when you did get married. So if any of these factors uh, are part of why you have not gotten married or haven't considered marriage, or you and your partner have decided not to get legally married, and we're just talking about legally married here. There's a difference between legally married and emotionally married. I'm going to try to first focus on these reasons scientifically why people have not gotten married. And I went and I read a bunch of studies on this subject matter. And there were a few studies, most of the studies had pretty much the same information as to why people are choosing not to get married. But I am very interested and curious as to what may be your reason for you not getting married. If you're coming on, I love to know where you're listening from. So if you don't mind telling me where you're listening from, that'd be great. I would appreciate that. So where are you listening from? And the question also is, are you married? Are you married right now? Or are you in a state of marriage? Those are two very different things. One just has some paperwork, and the other one is just that you're living in a state of marriage. I discussed on a video the other day about the difference between legal paperwork, being married, and being in the state of marriage. Uh, I don't have a leaning towards one or the other for the general population, but there are certain situations where the legal documentation becomes very important. And then there are situations where the legal documentation really doesn't make that much of a difference, because there are legal documents that you can get to support whatever needs you have to get married, uh, needs you have for living your life, I should say. So today we're going to discuss some of the primary social reasons why people are not getting married. And um, there's no time like the present, but to go ahead and get started in this one, we're gonna hopefully going through this information probably only take about 30 minutes, but we are going to also, if there's any statements or questions that come up, then we'll handle those as well. So we may go much longer in this conversation. So once again, I thank everybody. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep growing the channel. We've had great growth over the last couple of months, so I look forward to our continued growth. So what are some of the key factors as to why marriage is declining? Uh, in the 1940s, the overwhelming majority of Americans, especially, got married at very young ages. They were getting married at the age of 18, age of 19, 20, some getting married at age 16 and below. But most people in America were getting married. And that was the normal goal for most people to get married. But there have been a lot of things that have changed in American society that has made people have an unwillingness to get married. And the first of those, which I'm sure most of us can agree, are the economic factors that have prevented people from getting married. And many of those economic factors may not be what people necessarily think about, but it is something that, like my oldest daughter said to me a few years back, that to get married right now, economically, she doesn't feel that she's in a place where getting married and having children would be to the best benefit of herself or anybody else. She doesn't want to be a financial burden on anyone, but she is carrying student loans, and the cost of housing, the difference between cost of living and the current wage gap is one of the reasons why she had decided, and when she was in her early 20s, that she would wait before she gets married. She wanted to make sure certain things were in place, because some people, they're just getting by in their 20s. They're boomerang children and they're going back to their parents, and they don't want to get married with all that economic burden that they would have to shoulder if they were to get married. So the economic factors of the cost of living, the cost of raising a child, has increased to such degree that many people are choosing not to get married. Um, it hit me like a ton of bricks when I had got out of the military and I wasn't able to get DOD child support. And the cost of child support, I mean, not child support, the cost of child care was like crazy. It was crazy um, when we took my daughter to La Petite Academy, and they wanted like $400 or $500 a month just for childcare. And I thought that that was a ridiculous amount. I was accustomed, being in the Marine Corps, to paying like $127 a month for childcare, but it was $500 a month for childcare in Brandon, Florida at the time. And this is in 1997. So I can't imagine what the cost of childcare is today. I'm sure that people are paying upwards of $700 and $800 for childcare, and that is a cause for many people to say, "I don't want to get married and start a family." The inability to purchase a home by many people because they haven't worked out their credit situation has caused them to say, "I'm not going to get married because if I got married, we have to move in with a parent." And we're not financially stable enough to get married. So many people are waiting. Now, for us who are older, many of us look at the economic factors of, I got a house, she has a house, and what are we going to do with the other house? Do we rent the house? Do we sell the house? All these different type of financial decisions that now have to be made based on whether or not we can, afford to marry. Is the market, is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market? Do I want to deal with renters? So all these type of economic factors come into play when people decide that they're going to get married. And so because of that reason, that is one of the reasons why people are not getting married. And all of these things play into the reason, the rationale. It is not just one thing that is causing the decline in marriage in America. And I think some of these other statements, these other things, are more prime reasons as to why people are not getting married. Because economically, marriage can be a benefit if the two people are working together financially. Then marriage can be a financial benefit to most people. But when the two people are not working financially together, then marriage becomes a drag. I have spoken to hundreds of men in the last 4 to 6 years. And many of those men, because of the economic psychology of a lot of women, choose not to get married because it is the expectation that I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s years old, and a woman says, marry me, but she doesn't want to be a partner, a co pilot in the finances of the house. She wants me to take over all the bills. She wants me to pay everything, and she gets to keep her money and do whatever she desires for it. That is a recipe for disaster. So if you're an older person and you're looking to get married and you expect someone to come in and they're going to now shoulder all the financial responsibilities, this is not 1940. This is not 1950s or the 1960s or 70s. That type of mentality does not play today. Although most men that I know of and have spoken to do not care how much money a woman makes. What we do care about is whether or not she's going to be a liability, a financial liability. And there have been many occasions where people who wanted to date me had this mentality that, oh, they come in and I pay for my life and their life, and they get to keep all their money for themselves. That bullshit wasn't working. I was not going for it. So many men are choosing not to get married simply because there is this mindset of bringing in a wife brings a financial liability. And with the way economics are for the majority of people today who are living paycheck to paycheck, getting married is often not to the great benefit of men. So a lot of men are choosing not to get married for economic reasons. Now, to shift from that, one of the other reasons why people are not getting married is because of the change in the gender role. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting, and it's going to sound completely opposite of what I just said. This is where the women mentality are coming into play more strongly than men. Many women today are choosing not to get married because in the 1940s, in the 1950s, a way for a woman to gain financial security was for her to get married. And oftentimes that was the goal. I remember when I was training this young lady, and although she made great money, she came from a very small town, Eatonton, Georgia, matter of fact. And I remember her saying quite often that if she is not married by the age of 25, then she is considered an old maid, and that she sought marriage for the security of it all, not realizing that the person that she was most interested in marrying, she made more money than him. But because women are making more money, women don't have um, they're not held back to the degree that women were held back in the 1940s and 50s. Women are choosing not to get married, not to rush into it, to take their time, to wait later in life to get married because financial security is not dependent upon a man for her to get married. And like I said, that is sounds opposite to what I was just saying about how a lot of men don't get married because they don't want to take on a burden. But women are making more money, and many of those women are saying, I don't need a man financially, so I don't have to get married. So I can wait. I can marry for love. I don't have to marry for finances. I don't have to marry for financial security. I don't have to marry because, and I'm going to get to the stigma of divorce and the stigma of not being married in a little bit, but I don't have to marry for those reasons. I can take care of myself. And so you have an increase in women who are also saying, what's the point of me getting married? Because financial security is not what I'm looking for out of a man. Now, I know there are those who do look for that. But even some, and you do have some of them who say that, well, I make good money, I'm going to get married, but he's going to pay for everything. That's when the two mentalities work against each other. Now, the third one is cohabitation. Cohabitation has become more of a norm in society today than cohabitation was 20, 30, 40 years ago. 40, 50 years ago, if two people were cohabitating, then people would look down on them. They were considered a pariah. They were thought to be, um, not in the best state. They were not good people. And this one actually kind of goes hand in hand with the shifting social attitudes, uh, because shifting social attitudes have changed where people aren't looked upon negatively if they cohabitate. Now, you do have some people who think that way still. Generally, that's in the older population, but in the younger population, they are not they don't care what you think about them cohabitating. So because of that shifting social attitude of these Gen Zers and Gen Xers, their mindset is that they can cohabitate. They can live with someone. They can live with someone for 5 years, 10 years. I know some who live with each other for 16 years plus, and they are not legally married. They're emotionally married. Their finances are all tied up amongst each other, but they do not have any type of paperwork whatsoever. And I'm not just talking about the marriage certificate. They don't have a will. They don't have a power of attorney. They don't have a living will. They don't have any documentation that will determine the financial structures or the financial decision if one person were to pass on or if they were to break up. So many people are just choosing to cohabitate, just to live with each other. And because that social pariah idea is not part of it, that shifting in social attitude has changed. many people choose not to get married. And so the numbers of people who are getting married have drastically declined because of that, because there is no social stigma to it. Now, another reason is personal fulfillment. Now, when I was younger, when I was 19, you know, when I was walking out of my parents' house, going to the Marine Corps, uh, I didn't necessarily think about my personal fulfillment before getting married. It was something that would be obtained while married. But in today's society, people want to finish college, they want to finish trade school, they want to be at an economic level, they want to travel a certain amount, they have their own goals that they want to achieve, that they can do it selfishly without worrying about what someone else thinks about it before they get married, before somebody else comes into the picture. So a person's personal fulfillment of wanting to achieve certain things in life has delayed many people in getting married. And so they choose that marriage right now is not for them because they want to obtain whatever it is in life. Some people, uh, I would imagine if, and it's always the if I knew now what I knew back then, there I would have waited before I got married. I would have either waited until I got to a certain rank in the Marine Corps. I would have waited until I had um, done uh, did my ship duty and then did embassy guard. Because you can't be in the Marine Corps, you can't be married and you're E5 and below. You can't be married and go embassy. If I had known that, it's a possibility that I may have chosen to wait before I get married because that was a personal fulfillment that I desired. So I had to wait until I got promoted to E6 before I could go and do embassy because that's the only time frame you could be married and do that job. So many people are have personal fulfillments that they desire to achieve before they get married, and knowing that if they marry someone, then it's going to stifle their ability to um, fulfill that. The college thing, I understand completely. If you are in college, you should be able to. You want to be able to focus on college. You want to focus on studying. If you come home and you just want to eat a hot pocket and you don't want to have to worry about somebody else, you want that flexibility to be able to do that. So many people, many of this younger generation are saying, no, I want to finish college first. This is where we get those the ideas of graduating and engaged, that trend that is going on where people are getting engaged right at graduation, right around that graduation time, because they want to be able to enjoy college, to deal with college, to study as much as they want to study without someone saying, well, you're not spending enough time with me. One of the hardest things to do is to go to college while you are married. I remember I was going to college while I was married, and it was difficult when you have, especially when you have, a pregnant wife and a newborn, and then the pregnant wife turns to having a newborn son. You have a 2 year old, well, 18-month old, and a 5 year old. Going to college and trying to have a family at the same time is very, very difficult. Hey, hello, Rhea. I hope I'm saying that right, Miss Walker. How about Rhea? Yeah, Rhea, Raya. If I'm saying it wrong, just forgive me. I'm calling you Miss Walker. But going to college and having children and having a family was very, very difficult. Very difficult. Hello, Angie. Was very difficult. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that or not, but it can be a difficult thing to try to manage being a father, being a husband. My father-in-law was living with us, so being a son and trying to go to school, trying to study. It's like, oh, I was in class. I've been in class. Thankfully, my school schedule was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to study. Um, but trying to have that peace to study, trying to have that peace to go and have study groups and that sort of thing, and then being in class for 8 hours, being married and having a family, that made that incredibly difficult. Hey, how you doing, Tamika? That made that very difficult. So many are in their personal fulfillment, they want to fulfill certain goals before they get married. Uh, Knowing what I know now as well, I enjoyed living outside of America, right? And that was something that I didn't find out until I was in my early mid 20s, that I really enjoyed living in other countries. But once you're married, you then have to take into consideration what the other person feels about living outside of another country. And so that level of personal fulfillment kind of is hampered because you got to take into consideration what they think. That that is why it reminds me. That is why when I was single, the first time I was single as an adult, one of my qualifying questions to a person, to a young lady, would be, are you okay with living outside of America? Do you have to live in America for the rest of your life? Because once my children get grown and get settled and everything's square, I'm leaving. And marriage would not keep me here. So if you don't think if you got to live in America for the rest of your life, I'm not your person, right? That was one of my first week, 2 weeks conversation that was going to be had with any and everyone. And I had some people lie to me. Oh, yes, 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 I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. And then you get like a year plus in the relationship, and all of a sudden they change it up. Oh, well, you got to think about me now. Many people will hold off from getting married because they don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want to have to deal with the change, with this is a personal fulfillment of mine. I'll wait. I know many guys, many women who waited until they got to Germany, got to Italy, got to Africa, got to Thailand, and then they decide, and that's when they got married, because that's where they wanted to live. And if you're already in America, to convince someone that, hey, I know we're married, but I've always had this dream that I wanted to go live on the beach in Ecuador. No. So many people are waiting because they want their personal fulfillments. They want to get that taken care of. You know, you have the right to be selfish in your life, so they wait before they get married. Which brings me to this other one, and I literally remember it hurt my feelings. It did. Um, my oldest daughter, at age 14, told me that she's not going to ever get married. Now she wants to be married, but at 14 she said she didn't want to get married because she had seen me and her mother get divorced. She had seen other people in her family and in her circle get divorced. So many people are choosing not to get married because of the high divorce rates in America. And this is why they are cohabitating. Many will choose to cohabitate instead of getting married, although after a while, your cohabitation is common law marriage. But many decide not to get married because they fear of the fear of getting divorced. Now, shameless plug. This is why I just posted a video about 30 minutes ago where it talks about 6 secrets to having a happy relationship. You might want to go check that out after this live. 6 secrets. If you didn't get the notification, turn your bell icon on. If you're already a subscriber, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. But 6 secrets to having a happy relationship. If you follow those 6 secrets, your possibility of divorce goes down drastically. Goes down drastically. And there are many other videos that I talked about things that could help you to keep from this divorce rate. But this divorce rate that we have now, I believe it's somewhere around 54% of Americans are getting divorced. And the largest percentage of people who are getting divorced are people over 50. And one of the reasons why these people over 50 are getting divorced is because women can now go and make as much money, just as much money as a man. financial security is not based on a man anymore. So because of that, many older couples are getting divorced because they can afford to live divorced and don't have to put up with the bullshit of an unhappy long-term relationship. This is why I did the video where I talked about don't celebrate long relationships simply because they're long. If they're not happy, those people who are in their 50s and above are getting divorced now. But many people fear getting married because of divorce. The only reason you should fear that if you know you are rushing into a marriage. The only reason you should fear that is you know that there are red flags that are showing up left and right, and you just choose to ignore them. Because when you choose to ignore those red flags, you are setting yourself up to fall into this divorce rate category. Now, here's a weird thing, and I didn't see this on any of the studies that I read. This is just based on conversations that I've had with a bunch of people, especially being a former owner of a cigar lounge. You get to sit and talk to a lot of people, and people have a tendency to tell you their entire life story. And for some reason, people feel like they want to tell me their whole life story, even when I first meet them. But many people refuse to get to marry because, let me rephrase it, because there are people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, have generally been divorced more than once. When those people are seeking to find themselves in a relationship, when you say, well, how many times have you been married? Oh, I've been married 2 times. I've been married 3 times. They automatically just put you in that category of being someone who is not worthy of marriage. They can't look at you and say, did you learn from any of those situations? What did you learn from those situations? How have you bettered yourself? Because it is rare that it is completely the other person's fault. You had a little bit something to do with it yourself. Anybody who tells me that they had nothing to do with it, you're going to have, it's going to take some convincing. It's going to take some serious convincing. It's very rare that a person didn't have anything to do with the divorce. But everybody seems to have those rose-colored lenses on, thinking that they were perfect in the relationship. I mean, do you guys think you were perfect in your previous relationships? I need the answer. Do you guys think that you were perfect in your relationship and it is all their fault? It is all their fault. They're the reasons why you got divorced. You had nothing to do with it. You didn't create no problem, no drama. You were the perfect husband, perfect wife, and it was just simply he or she had problems. He or she didn't realize how good they had it. Or did you contribute? Did you play a part? Would you? Yes, Stephanie. Wait a minute. Let me move over to the side of the board. It's probably actually I'm close to the microphone, so you can see what all that's on the board. Yeah, I know some of you guys are coming in late. You didn't hear all the rest of the explanations for the other issues up there. But yes, many people are afraid of getting married simply because they've seen divorce happen to their parents. They've seen divorce happen to their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, uncles, their grandparents. And so that fear of divorce is keeping a person from getting married. But let me, you know what? Because you guys are here for the live, I do want you to go and watch that video that I just put out today that has 6 secrets to a happy marriage. But those 6 secrets basically are show physical kindness to one another on a consistent basis, give verbal kindness to each other on a consistent basis, have mental kindness about each other on a consistent basis, um, share with each other without reservations, be and become a virtuous person, but be a virtuous person. And then number 6 was work towards a shared goal. Now, I explained those in greater detail on the video that I posted earlier today. You're going to have to go watch it. But if you follow that, if you have that as your foundation, then you will pretty much avoid divorce, right? The possibility of you getting divorced drops very low, because in order to do those 6 things, you have to make yourself into the greatest version of yourself, you and your partner. You have integrity. You are honest with each other. You have clear and concise communication with one another. You are not waiting for something or some reason to be kind to one another. You think of them in a kind manner all day, all night. So then your words become your thoughts becomes your words, and your words become your actions. So when you do that and you are maintaining that type of virtuousness, then you are less likely to get a divorce, especially, and it only works when both people are doing it. And if the other person is not doing it, then it's time to let them go. Don't be afraid of divorce. There is nothing to fear about divorce. You're not going to make the right decision all the time. And choosing a mate and then how people change over time, that's a possibility. But don't make that possibility something you fear. Just recognize it's a possibility. So, what can I do? How do I live my life? How do we live our lives to ensure that we can stay as far away from this as possible? When you do that, you should have a happy marriage. But it takes two people. One person can't do all that and it still work. It takes both people doing that. So those are things that you want to discuss with your mate before you get married. You want to discuss this with them before you even get involved in a relationship. You want it to then be a constant conversation. Ever so often, I'll ask my wife, doing a happy checkup, or where are we on the scale? 0 to 100, where are you? All right, we're not at 100. What can I do to make it 100? What can I do to get that number up? I know I could probably never get it to 100, but can I get it to the 90s? Can I get a 92? Can I get a 95? How can I get that happiness up higher? And it's not a happiness with herself, it is a happiness with the relationship, because I can't make her happy. She can't make me happy. I have to make myself happy. She has to make herself happy. I have to be willing to give her the freedom to make herself happy just as much as she has to be willing to give me the freedom to make myself happy. So I did another video today where I said four behavioral patterns that will destroy a relationship. And micromanaging your mate is one of those things. So if a person has to micromanage you to where you can't breathe, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you can't have friends, you can't walk in the house, and I just want to take my shoes off and sit on the sofa and do nothing. If a person can't give you that type of freedom, then and they're micromanaging every aspect of your life, you're not going to be happy. You can't make yourself happy. And if you can't make yourself happy, you're not going to be happy in your relationship. That's just Bart, it's just not going to happen. But let me not belabor that point too much, because the other one, the last one here, is educational levels. It is just a statistical fact that the higher education that a person has, the less likely they are to get married early. I talked earlier about personal fulfillment. Some people want to finish their education before they get married. And then after they finish their education, they want to achieve a certain level of prominence in their work. This is especially something for women when it comes to having a family. Uh, Having a child can offset your ability to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. If you go into, like, say, being a lawyer, the amount of time and energy it takes to become a lawyer, then the amount of time and energy it takes to become a prominent lawyer, having children, having a husband can derail that to a certain degree. The same thing for a man. You want to get to a point where you own your house, or you are at a certain level within the company that you're working for, or you're starting your own company. It is one thing to try to own a company and have a family, the amount of hours that you got to put in, and still try to fulfill your family's happiness. I personally have shut down a business that was prosperous because of the damage it was doing to the family. Literally started a business. The business was doing well, but it took me an hour and a half to drive to work to the company. It took me, so that's 3 hours of travel. I had to be there because it was inside of a mall. So I had to be there from opening of the mall to closing of the mall 7 days a week. I was literally not home. So when a situation came about where my father-in-law wanted to come live with us, but the housing that we was in wouldn't work, I shut the company down and moved to the house that was still owned in Florida where it could fit everyone and shut it down simply because of that. So my business ambitions at that moment could not be fulfilled. But for some people who come out the gate of high school or college and they want to start a business, having a family can be a detriment. It could not allow you to be able to live and breathe just that business day in and day out, whether you're a man or a woman. So many people are delaying because of educational level or personal fulfillment of starting businesses and things of that nature because it's just too difficult when you have a family. I had taken a contract where I was traveling 20 to 24 days out of the month. That was detrimental. So although other people was pissed when the contract abruptly ended, I was actually happy because that year and a half of my son's life, there was a year and a half of my son being like from what, how old was he at the time? From him being a year to 3 years old, I didn't really get to spend that much time with him because I was on the road. I was living out of hotels. It was so bad that at some points I would wake up in the hotel and we have to look at the stationery just so I can remember where I was at because all those hotel rooms started to look alike. But if you really wanted to build your career, it's hard to do with a family. So a lot of people wait. They're waiting. So these are the reasons why marriages are declining based on studies. Those are the reasons why. Now, there was a reason that they didn't put in there that I'm going to put in there. And that is because people are making piss poor decisions when they're younger and putting themselves in the least desirable categories. And I'm not just talking about people who go and they break the law and they get felonies and things of this nature. Some of y'all might get mad at me about these. Let me tell you right now. I'm gonna start with the men. If you are a man and you got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different women, because in your younger years, your 20s, you was out here just slanging it everywhere. You are not desirable. You're not. So a woman is not going to want to marry you because she has to put up with your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids and all their baby mamas. You're not desirable. So it's going to take you longer to find someone who's willing to marry you because you got too much drama going on. And of course, when we flip that, we have a woman, she has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 baby daddies. She is not as desirable either. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much education you have. If you are a man or a woman and you fall in that category, no, you're not desirable. When I got divorced at age 37, 17-year marriage, got divorced, 3 kids, I literally had a young lady tell me, nobody's going to want you because you got 3 kids. That you're not desirable because you have 3 kids. Now, to a certain degree, that was true. To a certain degree, it's not. Were there other women out there who were like, okay, you got 3 kids, 1 mother. I got 1, 2, 3 kids, 1 father. We can work. There were those who found that desirable. There were those who didn't have any kids, but they were like, okay, you own a gym. couple of studios, you got your kids, one wife, one baby mama. Okay, you're all, I can deal with that. And I was on the same boat. If a young lady had a whole bunch of kids by a bunch of different dudes, I wasn't interested. But if she had, a couple of kids, one father, okay, my kids are young, your kids are young, we can roll. We're good. But had another young lady, didn't realize it. Took a little bit of time for me to come to the realization of it. I had my three kids, one mother. She had her daughter. Um, she had her daughter, one father. Her daughter was 17. My oldest was 12. The next one was, my kids were 12, 8, and 7. It wasn't for her. She has raised her daughter. Her daughter was about to graduate high school. She was in her senior year. She didn't want to start over. She didn't want to deal with small kids. All I could do was respect that and keep it moving. Wish she had found out, and that would have been about 9 months that I would not have spent, dealing with her. Not that she was a bad person, but I understood it. Okay, you're right. You went through all of this. You raised your daughter. I can respect that. But some people are not going to find that something they want to deal with, and people just have to be mature enough to say, okay, I'm just not for you. I don't fit your standards. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's just you don't fit that person's standards. So you just have to find someone where y'all fit each other. And yes, blended families can be hard. That's why I got to the point where if she had kids, her kids need to be relatively the same age as my kids. If the kids were of a big disparage in ages, I realized that was going to be too tough, too much to deal with in a blended family. And now being 53, and all my kids are adults, all your kids got to be adults. I mean, it doesn't matter now because I'm married, but all your kids got to be adults. If I was out on the single scene and I met a young lady and she was like, "Oh, well, I have a 14-year-old, I have a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, 10-year-old." Nah, that's not going to happen. I'm 53. My youngest is 23. So I'm good. You may be a great woman. You may be fit, tick off every other box, but I'm not going through that. You know why? There are plenty of people out there who you can be happy with. There are plenty of people out there who can be your person, as we like to say. So there is no reason for you to lower your standard for what you have decided for your life. None whatsoever. So that's why when I met my wife, and we had the conversation about children, and her daughters are older than um, well, one daughter's older than all my kids, and the other one is older than the last two. So I was like, we good. They're all adults. They're all doing their own thing. We could just be, we can have our life together. We don't. There's no PTA. Not going to PTA meetings. There's no football games and softball games. There's none of that. There's no. We can take vacation whenever we want to and don't have to worry about is school in, is school out, when the school break. None of those things. Doctor's appointment. Our kids are grown. They go to their own doctor appointment by their damn self. Don't have to worry about those kinds of things. That's so you have to think about those kinds of things. But I think that's one of the reasons, that's another reason why people are not getting married right now, is because the older you get, the more standards you have. And those standards are harder to come by. You know, um, if you're, I'm difficult in the fact that I haven't worked for anyone. I mean, I temporarily took a job in 2010. But prior to 2010, I hadn't worked for anyone since 2002, and that was just for 9 months. Yeah, that was just for 9 months. But many people, they're looking at retirements. They've been working their whole life. People want that guaranteed monthly check that they know they're gonna get. I'm not that kind of guy. I just gonna take a little. There's gonna be some ups and downs. Business is gonna be good. Business is not gonna be so good. It happens. Some people can't deal with that. That's fine. Then you add on that there's no way in hell I'm going to live in America. By the time I'm 60, I'm gone. We out of here. It'll happen before then. So some people don't know how to. Let me just throw this up here so that everyone can see. Some people don't know how to balance their relationships with their kids and their partner. And that's another one. That's another one. Is balancing your relationship with your kids and your partner. So let me tell you a story. If you've been following this channel, you know I like telling stories, especially my own personal stories. There was this young lady. She had children. We started dating. There's not a big age difference between our children, so it was fine. But the difference is, as a man, the kids, when we cohabitated, the kids lived with us. But the situation wasn't a kids live with us situation. It was really a I'm living with them situation. Because how she managed her kids was irrelevant to how I thought kids should be raised. How the house functioned with kids was based on her. I was irrelevant to how the house would function with kids. That is very difficult. I like things to be clean and put in their place. I'm not OCD, but you know, I don't do clutter. And when she asked for help about the clutter, she didn't listen because she didn't want to upset the children. Evidently that didn't work. It wasn't going to work. And one of the big things come down to disciplining the children. If the parents are not on team to how the discipline is going to function, it doesn't work. And it's not always just about laying hands on the kids. It was down to the simple things of, okay, this joker didn't do their chores, so they get zero screen time, no laptop, no phone, no television. And then 30 minutes later, you sitting over there watching a movie with them. How does that work? You just told that child that they can just keep doing whatever the hell they was doing. You see what I'm saying? So you got to know those kinds of things going in. And if your rules, if you're a single mother, and your rules is that ain't shit changing, and a man coming in here, he has no authority whatsoever, then you need to let a man know that right off the bat. Let him know right off the bat. You probably gonna be by yourself. You more than likely gonna be by yourself until they become adults. But you're gonna be by yourself. Because there ain't no way in hell if you got a man, not a boy, a man, that he gonna come in and take on all those financial responsibilities, all those physical responsibilities of getting the kids to wherever they need to get and go and all that kind of stuff. And then when the child acts out, he just got to sit back like a little pab. That's not gonna happen. Most men aren't going to accept that. So if you have that mentality, it is best to stay single until your kids are adults and and you're in the house by yourself. Then you can find a man. But if your household is my way or the highway, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for a man or a woman. A man can't be that way either. Your spouse is supposed to be your greatest counselor. Your spouse is supposed to be that person that y'all come together and y'all decide as a unit as to how everything is going to happen, and then you ride strong with your partner. If you're not doing that, if you don't have that mentality, there again, you're not ready to be married at all. And these numbers just need to keep on declining, right? Because you're not even ready for the cohabitation part of it. You just need to stay by yourself, because that just doesn't work at all. Doesn't work at all. But statistically, those are the reasons why people are not getting married right now in life. Um, do you got is any of those things have been a reason why you didn't get married? Since y'all gonna talk to me tonight, in it. Is any of those reasons a reason why you are still single? That you've chosen not to get married? Is it economic factors? Is it that you want to get some things squared away before you get married? You need to work on your job. Um, is it because you feel like, what do I need to get rush into a marriage for? I need to take. I got career shit that I want to build and life experiences I want to have. Do you not care because society doesn't look at people and say that, ooh, you 30 and you're not married, you're 40 and you're not married, you're an old hag and all this kind of stuff, you cat lady, you know? Do you prefer cohabitation? You know what? Everybody's free to do what they want to do. Um, or are you afraid of getting divorced? Like, if you're in this situation, you still working on your educational level and you don't want any interference, you know, are any of these reasons up here on this board, or any other reasons why you have chosen not to get married as of yet? Good evening, Sonia. So, any of those reasons why you haven't, or are any of those reasons why you waited, why you didn't get married in your 20s or your early 30s and you waited? Because more and more people are waiting until they're in their 40s to get married. Some people go a little bit faster simply because if you're a woman, you know that the older you get, the more dangerous it is to have a child. So I do know some women they have to face that. It's like, what am I going to sacrifice? Um, oh, son, you're divorced. Like, what do I got to sacrifice in order to um, get married so that I can have a child and not have health issues? So Sonia's divorced, and if you don't mind, Sonia, are you afraid of getting married again, or are you good to go with it? Because like I was talking earlier about how some people, because of the divorce rates or the fact that they've been through a divorce, they do not want to get married again. You know, that has never bothered me. Not at all. Not at all that you want to get you're not afraid, or not at all you ain't getting married again. Like, one of my heroes in relationships, and I'm not gonna say his name, but one of my heroes in relationship is one of my good friends. And this Joker, even though had he listened to me, he would have only been married 3 times. But it wasn't until his fifth marriage. Oh, you're not afraid. Good, 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 good. Don't be afraid. But one of my best friends, and I hope, yeah, well, he's heard me say this on many videos, so it doesn't bother him. But it took his fifth marriage before this Joker uh, was with his person, his fifth one. Uh, Now, if he had listened to me, if he had listened to me, it would have his third marriage would have been with the same person. It's just that he wasn't listening to me at the time frame, and because he didn't listen, he went through 2 additional marriages. You know, the first marriage, young, Marine Corps. I think she ran off. She got shipped to one base. He was at another base. She cheated on him. The second marriage, he was at one base and she was in another city. She cheated on him. And then, you know, just stupid shit. But I met him after the second marriage. And I told him, this woman that you keep pining over, that you've been telling me about, I know you dating this girl and you say you have no intentions of marrying this young lady. Uh, but I was like, go get this woman you keep telling me about. Call her up, find her. I was like, hell, I help you find her. But he already knew where she was at. Kept tabs on her because they had knew each other before. Nah. But after that fourth one, I cussed his ass out, and I was like, if you don't call her, I'm gonna come and kick your butt. And he did. He called her. They talked. Kept talking, and they have been blissfully married for like 12 years now. You know, best thing could ever happen to him. So if you are afraid, and I know Sonya says she's not good. My boy, it took him 5 times, 5 trials, but he finally got it right. Could have done it in 3, but it took him 5 times. So he got it right. 55 now, but got married too young. I understand that one. I understand that one completely. Um, I got married as well. I'm 53, but I got married at 19, and my ability of conflict resolution sucked. It sucked horribly. I did not have good conflict resolution back then. And of course, you know, when you don't have good conflict resolution, the issues that you have don't go away because they're never really solved, and they just stack up and stack up and stack up and stack up until the so much damage has been done that it's like finding an ancient document that got all kinds of holes in it and you can't tell what the hell it is, and as soon as it hit the light it crumbles. So I understand, you know, getting married too young. This is one reason why I actually told my children, I can't tell you to not do it, but don't get married until you're about 30. You don't even know who you really are yet. You need to go through some ups and downs and go through some stupid relationships first. You know, if you find that great person and everything is working out great, sure, knock yourself out. But for the most part, you don't know who you are. I didn't know who I was at 19, 20, 21. I was still developing, getting out into the world, you know. So I had a lot to learn, had a whole lot to learn, you know. Like I said earlier, I didn't know that I have a love for living outside of America until I went and lived outside of America from 93 to 97 to early 97. I had no idea of that, but I learned that about myself. I learned a lot of things about myself in those years from 19 to my early 30s. Uh, all those things have helped build me into who I am today. So I wouldn't take none of them away, but getting married that young, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Just like most people don't, you know. And I didn't have. I always tell my children, I wish I had me as a father because I would have been a much better person if I had me as a father. You know, I didn't have that around me. Uh, my grandparents' relationship was not something to envy. The only relationship that was somewhat around me to envy, both of them passed away before I. One of them passed away before when the wife passed. My aunt passed away before I graduated high school. My uncle passed away like 2 years later. You know, so I didn't get a chance to sit at their feet. There was no other great relationships for me to learn from. There was no conversation. There weren't. We didn't have relationship conversations when I was growing up. So I didn't get that. I had to learn everything on my own, you know. But that's why I tell my children, just I know I taught life lessons a lot, and my son even had to tell me one time, can we have a conversation that's not a life lesson conversation? And he was like, that's why I don't answer your calls when you call me. But that was like 5 years ago. But they listen, and I'm glad they listen because it helps set them up. This is why there's a gentleman that I was talking to the other day, and him and his wife need counseling. They need some serious counseling. They need some serious coaching. And you know, me and my wife gave him some pointers the other day. But most people are so afraid of counseling. They run from it. They don't want it. They think that somebody's intrusive in their life. They don't want anybody to criticize them and all that sort of thing. But that outside eye looking in can be one of the greatest advantages you could ever have, right? It could be one of the greatest things you can have in your life. You just got to be mindful of who that information is coming from. Like you give me one of them old couples that's bitter towards one another, they can't tell me shit. I can watch them and see what not to do and what I don't want. And that's pretty much what I did later on in life. I started looking back at my grandparents' relationship and like, I don't want that. I look back at some of my mother's relationships. I don't want that. Some of my father's relationship. I don't want that. You know, so what's the opposite of that? Let me make myself into the opposite of what I know doesn't really work in a relationship. It doesn't matter how long they were together. If you're unhappy, then what's the point? If you're miserable, if you're arguing all the time, what's the point? So only thing I learned from them is what not to do. But I'm trying to learn these things while I'm in a relationship. So it'd have been better if I had learned these things while I'm not in a relationship, so that when I did get into relationships, when I did get into a marriage, then I have a better stance, I have a better understanding, a better mode of how to function. Right. I know I will mess up your name, Miss Howard. Shanara. I hope I said it. So I hope I said it right, Shanara. She said, "Same. I'm learning as I go." It is. There's a lot to learn as you go. Hell, I wish we had YouTube when I was coming up. You know, you can go on YouTube and learn damn near anything. And if there was a YouTube back when I was in my teens and early 20s, where there were people having these discussions, it would have been wonderful. I would have learned a hell of a lot more, because I am somewhat of a YouTubeaholic, you know. So if I exactly, I got to put this one up. Exactly, that's how I feel. Like, man, what what type of benefit would it have been? Because other than that, back in my day, you had to go read a book or something. Of course, I've already went through all this stuff, so ask away. You never have to ask for permission when we're doing a live. And lives are supposed to be every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I was very late today. I was an hour late today, but normally it's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. But go ahead and ask your question. Sonia said we had the encyclopedia. Yeah, we had, yes, because you're my age. So we had the encyclopedia. You had to go. There was no Barnes and Nobles. I mean, think about that. There was no Barnes and Nobles. Nobody went to bookstores. You went to the library. Um, I don't know. Bookstores was, I guess, rich people stuff back in when I was growing up. Nobody went. I never even heard of a bookstore until Barnes and Nobles and Bookorama and all them people came out. But you didn't read books about relationships. You just, your parents told you, well, you get married, you love each other, and just make it work. Just make it work. Just find a comfortable road, comfortable little part, little rut that you can get in, and just make it work. It ain't supposed to be all happy. I actually had some people on commenting on video, some men who were saying that relationships are not supposed to be this fairy tale happiness. It's about raising a family. I was like, y'all stupid. That's just dumb. Ask your question, Shanara. You probably are writing it. So you helping me think about being married again. Well, I'm glad. You're 46. Cool. You know, like I said, you're supposed to make yourself happy. You're supposed to live your life where you are happy with yourself and where you're happy with your life. It's like getting that extra boost when you have a partner with you, when you can enjoy all those things of life that you enjoy, and you can enjoy your happiness, and you can share it with someone else and they can share theirs with you. Y'all have common goals that you're, working together on. To have that person that's always making you feel even better about yourself is a great thing. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, you know. Um, to have somebody who says that, my life is better because of you, that makes things great. All right, Shannara's question. My husband is suffering from the loss of my mom-in-law, right? And it's really affecting our relationship. Should I actively try to help him grieve or step back and be supportive? Both? Both. Okay, I'm gonna leave that question up there for a minute. You do both. Yes, you have to allow a person to grieve in whatever format that they're grieving in, and you have to give them that time. People can often find themselves in depression. You said it's and people can find themselves in a depressive state. And you want to be supportive, and you want to help them refine themselves. You want to help them continue to live their life with the absence of their mom, which is very difficult for people who had a great relationship with that parent, especially, or even those who have regrets with that parent. You want to be supportive, but you don't want to let them sit and stew in it and never move from it. So in communicating with them, I ain't gonna say you have to. I would preference a lot of our conversations when I know I'm dealing with something um, that could be difficult for them to be able to speak on without them feeling like I'm attacking them, right? So um, this would be better if I was talking to you directly. If you want to come on, let me know, because text only give you so much. So if the person, when you're talking to them, to be able to say to them, prefacing the conversation, you know, everything. I love you, and I would never want to hurt you. I want you to understand that I'm saying this to you with love. But, and don't say but, because but negates everything. This is the everything. So you got to be choice with your words. You might want to even write them down before you make the statement, or write a letter and give it to them in a letter. But to say that, you know, this is with love. I don't want to hurt you. We've been having communication problems lately. You haven't been talking to me, and I haven't been able to penetrate because I know you're going through this loss of your mom. But it's affecting our relationship to the point where I'm feeling however I'm feeling. And it's not to say that your feelings are invalid. It is not to say that you shouldn't be able to grieve your mother. We have a relationship, we have a life that we still have to continue. And I want to do nothing more than to help you get through this. And I will stand by your side and be supportive. We're just at a state where I feel alone. I feel by myself in this relationship. And I need you to talk to me. I need you to converse with me. I need you to express how you're feeling and know that you're not going to be judged. And I need to be able to do the same thing to you. I need to be able to tell you how I feel without being judged. Because our communication, our ability to continue to grow and build our life together is important to me. And I know it's important to you. So you see what I'm saying? Um, Communicate is all about how you communicate with someone. I wasn't expecting to be able to speak to you. I'm just listening and absorbing the information. Thank you so very much. Oh yeah, there's the program that I'm using. I can send you a link, and that'll allow you to be able to express yourself more completely um, in your questions and statements. And I never have any problems with people coming on a live, as long as they're productive people. Uh, I don't deal with trolls, but if there's something that anybody would want to do, just let me know, and I'll post the link. But yes, so communicating, being an effective communicator is one of the most difficult things, because oftentimes we communicate from pure feelings, but we not but we communicate from pure feelings. We need to be able to communicate with our logic as well as our emotions, with our logic ruling over our emotions. Being very specific with your words so that it can be vocalized to them with the utmost clarity of what your actual intents are and what you actually mean. And with a person going through something like that, to be able to converse with them like that, okay, you would. Let me post this link. Now, this is for Shannara right now. I do ask people to ask to come on before they come on. So let me take my microphone out. Now that's interesting. I wonder. Let's see. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm giving a little bit of time for Shannara to be able to click on the link, and then when I see her pop up, we'll bring her up on to the platform here. That's to me, that's the best kind of live, when we can have dialogue with one another. To me, that's the best kind of live. Huh. To my Facebook people, I am not seeing your comments for some reason. They're not coming up on my screen. So I didn't even know there were Facebook people on here. I'm casting on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Let me see. That's weird. Facebook comments are not coming up. But we're waiting on Shannara to click on the link. Hopefully everything is working fine. If you're having a problem with the link, Shannara, just let me know and I'll repost it. But yes, how we communicate with people, that in itself, that could change the way an entire situation is handled, and the outcome of the situation is how we communicate with them. You know, if we are, you know, we always do it with a calm voice. We, no matter, even if the person gets angry or upset, remain calm. Don't try to get into a tit for tat situation. Just try to communicate them and remain as loving as you possibly can. Shannara, did you see the link? It should be in the comment box. But to express those, oh, there she go. Hold on, y'all.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can now. I had to raise you on here. Good evening.
Hi. Good
Nice to meet
evening. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. I wasn't expecting to come up today.
you. It's fine. It's fine.
Um, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Like I said, my husband, he lost his mom in like shortly after we got married in 2022. So the majority of our relationship has been really me helping him through the grieving process. And I've noticed, I've tried, various ways. I've tried, just maybe staying quiet and allowing him to have his space. And I've tried, gently making suggestions and stuff like that. And I've noticed that the more I try to help him, I feel like maybe I'm pushing a little bit too much, maybe, and that he might not be quite ready because the more I try to help him through it, it's like I get a wall. Like I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with this right now. And over time, like I said, it's starting to affect our relationship. Where like, let's see how I can explain it. Just pretty much everything is like a trigger now. And I've been told that I remind him a lot of his mom, so that don't help. I think that's a big problem too. So it's like, if I say anything, it's loud, like almost like mama's here again. And he's even said sometimes that, all right, mama, you can stop. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm mom. I'm your wife. And so it's like, I feel sort of stuck as to what to do as far as like approaching the situation and helping him because I hate seeing him suffer,
Right.
because he really loved his mama. And as you see, I call her mama too. That
Hmm.
She was a wonderful woman. And so it's hurting both of us, but it's like at the same time, I want to help him through it so we can prosper in our relationship. Because, like I said, the majority of our marriage has been with the loss of my mom-in-law. I didn't get to have her in my life, and get to enjoy her very much. It was like maybe 4 months.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was 4 months, and then she was gone. So, it's difficult, especially when I remind him so much of her. So I'm trying to figure out how to approach this and help him through it, but not trigger him at the same time.
No, I understand. So what was the situation going on when he would say that you're not his mom, or he would say, "All right, mom"? Like, what were you doing?
Okay. I will admit I am one of those wives I do everything for him to the point where it's like I baby him. Like,
Hmm.
like, you if he's cold or whatever, if we're out and about, it was one day we were out somewhere and he didn't have his head covering on. And so I reminded him, I just put it on him for him. And he's like, all right, ma, stop, stop, stop. Not now, not now. And I know it's something maybe his mom would have done, making sure
Hmm.
he's presentable. You know what I mean? That's my husband. I want to make sure I represent him when we're out and about and in a what I'm saying, a proper manner. And so it's the same thing. I want to make sure that, when he's out, I know he was slipping on his pimping that day. He forgot his head over. And so it was just a gentle reminder. But, it is one of those things that mama would have done had she been here. You know what I mean?
So
Or,
what did,
little things,
so
little things.
when he said that, what did you say?
I just laughed it off because we were in public. And so I didn't want to make a scene. I'm not the type to really address certain things in public. I try to,
Right.
just keep it copacetic and keep things cool.
Did you bring it up later?
But later, and then after, I will admit afterwards, I totally forgot. I forgot about it. So, I just, it was one of those things I'm like, I don't pay it no mind. Just let it fly. It's no big deal to me.
So you let it fly
But,
like that. It's still something it's one of those things that's still going on. It's still an ongoing thing. A thought that's in your mind is it might still be a thought in his mind. So it's one of
yeah.
those situations that you got to handle. Sometimes we think the small things are just small and we can just get by them and we just go on with life. But those things become unresolved issues. And then the other stuff gets stacked on top of it and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's definitely a
Yeah.
conversation that you should have with him to say that, so that you can draw the distinction between I'm being your wife and I'm not trying to be your mother because I can't replace your mother. I will never be able to replace your
And
mother.
I tell him that though my feet aren't big enough to fit her shoes. She was an incredible woman. I'm honored to be compared to her, but at the same time, I feel like it's an insult to her because I can't compare to her. I
Right.
can't. She's an incredible woman.
And you shouldn't be trying
So,
to compare to her. And it's not shoes that you have to fill. The shoes you're filling is the shoes of the wife. They're a totally separate pair of shoes, right? She got red bottoms and you got Pradas. I don't know much about shoes in that framework. Those are just two names I know, but I'm sure the distinction worked. But he has to understand that you are his wife and you're going to do those wifely things. When a man leaves his mother and father, his wife becomes that mother like figure, but with the romantic slant to it. So it's
mhm.
different. It's very different because a man's first love generally is his mother, right? But as we grow, we have to realize that our wife is a different type of woman to us. And that's where his mind has to realize that you're not being his mother, you're being his wife. Now, you can explain that to him and you can demonstrate it to him. it has to be explained in a way that he comprehends it. Like, I don't know how he learns. Does he learn physically? Does he learn through actions? Does he learn through words? Does he learn through
Through
logic?
action.
All right, actions.
He's
Is he logical minded or is he emotionally minded?
logical.
Okay. So when you explain things to him, you have to come from a pure logical standpoint of how you desire for your relationship to continue to flourish, but you are having issues on your side of where it flourishes because he's not seeing you as his actual helper, as his actual wife. You're seeing me as someone who's trying to fill some shoes that I'm not trying to fill. I have my own shoes, and that's the shoes of the wife. And I need you to see me because, and always got to give stuff back to him because I see you and I see you as my husband and I see all the wonderful things that you do. I need you to communicate with me and talk to me about how you feel so that we can both continue to work together. So it's creating that image in his mind where he sees you purely as the wife and not as the mother or someone trying to be his mom, right? And you have to, this part will sting. It's going to sting him. You have to be able to tell him when you compare me to your mom or try to insinuate that I'm trying to fill her shoes, it makes me feel like whatever it makes you feel like. If it makes you feel hurt, if it makes you feel like he's not seeing you as not truly seeing you, whatever that makes you feel like, he has to understand that's how you're making me feel. And I know you're not doing it on purpose because I know you love me and I know you wouldn't want to hurt me. But I need you to hear me and understand me from that logical standpoint so that he can start seeing you as his wife. And him seeing you as his wife will help him to um, alleviate some of the emotional troubles that he has from losing his mom. I mean, I'm not trying to put any time limit on someone's grief. You can grieve as
Yeah,
long as, but 2 years is a long time to still be grieving at a level where you're hurting the people who are loving you. All right. Because let's be honest, after 2 years, you don't want to, you understand the pain that he went through and that he's going through, but you're kind of tired of hearing it. You're tired of hearing it, really. I know you don't want to admit it. Your eyeballs just said you are, but you're tired of hearing it. And it's like, okay, I understand. I can never feel it the way you feel it, but we have to keep living our life. And we're headed down the wrong path right now. We're heading towards divorce. I don't want divorce. I don't, and don't say that. Don't say nothing about divorce. Don't say nothing about divorce. But we're not headed into a good place, you know, because I'm not in a good place because I want to love you. I want to give you everything, but when I give you everything and you throw it back at me as your mom, you're taking away my identity as your wife. And I need to be identified as your wife because I identify you as my husband. You see what I'm saying? So communicating to him in that manner, and it's not going to be a one-time fix. It might even cause arguments and a little bit of distance initially, but you have to keep going. As long as you still desire this relationship, you have to keep going. You have to
I
keep.
do. That's why I came up here. Because
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I, I, I asked for this because I'm not gonna lie, I've been in my wits end, and it's not that I don't love him. It's actually the opposite. Is I've been sort of at the point where it's like, do I need to give space for him to grieve? Because I don't want to keep hurting somebody that I love. I love
right.
him too much to keep hurting him. But at the same time, it's like I felt like my presence was causing that pain and, just a constant reminder. So that's not my intention. I want to be here for him because I love him.
And the,
As you see, I love him. I'm putting my business on the internet. You know what I mean? So,
and the longer this is unresolved, the other person that you're hurting that you love is yourself, because you're feeling this pain every time you're going through this situation. To even sit there and know that you want to help him, but he's not responsive to it, hurts you, because you want to give, but you don't want the backlash of, if I give, it's going to come back. And then that hurts you as well. This is why that communication has to be very clear and concise, so that he understands exactly how you feel, you know, and he'll have to get to a point where he doesn't judge you based on it, and you can openly express yourself, and he receives it and knows that it's not coming from any part where you're trying to hurt him, right? So just have that type of conversation with him where you're truly expressing that you need to be seen. You need to be seen as his wife, and
is
and
it
you.
possible? Is it possible, like, if I can write it down? Just because I know a lot of times I don't get to get my words out because I've been told that I can be a bit long-winded, but I'm just simply trying to, instead of getting to the point. And I know I recognize I do get like that, especially when I'm trying to. I don't know how to say it. It's like it's so much I want to get off my chest,
Right.
and so I feel like maybe if I write it down, it might get across a lot clearer. Maybe.
Yeah. Welcome to the club of long-windedness, because I am such as myself. So one thing that I did learn back a long time ago is that when there are certain situations that I know I may either get long-winded or get off track, or whatever, I would write it down. So yes, write it down. But the problem with words on paper, they don't often convey context or emotion. So I would write it down, but I would read it to him, right?
Okay.
And ask for his patience beforehand. I need you to be patient with me. I want to express this, but I want to make sure that I'm expressing this so that you fully understand what my heart and my mind. So please just listen. Don't and please don't try to automatically have a response, but just listen. I need you to just listen to my heart, listen to my mind. And then if he comes say, and wait for him to agree to that, and then read it to him. Because when you're reading it, you'll be able to add your emotions to it. You'll be able to add your logic to it. So it'll then be better received. It's just like giving a speech, you know. So yes, if that's a better way for you to do it, to write it down, then write it down. But read it to him. Don't let him read it, because he's going to read it with his emotions and his mind, not your emotions and your mind. And the goal is to get your emotions, your mind across to him, so that hopefully he understands you and what your true intent is, so that he won't start creating his own intent and his own thoughts.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you
This is
so,
my
so, so,
pleasure.
so much.
And if y'all need
And
counseling and coaching, get some counseling and coaching.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, because he needs to
All
be a
right.
part. He needs to be a part of he needs to be a part of both of it, of all of it, and both of y'all. A third eye can very, very helpful. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. I want an
All
update.
right.
I'm gonna need an update.
Absolutely. I follow you and I be commenting so in your videos, so you probably see something.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You have a great evening. Well, that was great. That was wonderful. I feel like I've accomplished my mission for the day. I feel like I've accomplished my mission for today. That was good. That was good. I appreciate her bravery. Shanara, I forgot to tell you that. I appreciate your bravery of being able to come out here and publicly, state what's going on in your life. Many people are afraid to do that. And out of that fear of what other people may think about them, they will, just bottle this stuff up and try to, work it out for themselves. And we all oftentimes need help. So I applaud your bravery for being able to come on here and you never know who else will hear what you just said and realize that they need to do something very similar, if not the exact same thing. So thank you very much for that. Um, if there's any other questions or statements, be glad to take them. If not, I'm gonna give y'all like 2 minutes to catch up. If not, we're gonna call it an evening because it's 10:03 in San Antonio, and I just spent some more time with my wife. Oh, Sonya gave some. Those hands clapping. I don't have my reading glasses. I broke them, so I can't even see what that is. I think those are hands clapping. But that was great. That was great. If there's nothing else, I appreciate you guys. I always appreciate people who support the channel. Thank you very much. Okay, yes, those are hand clapping. At 53, well, you're 55, you might have 2020. So I appreciate everybody. Continue to like and share the channel, share the videos. The goal here is to help as many people be able to have great relationships as I possibly can. And a lot of these same teachings about relationship, they work with your children, they work with your parents, your siblings, your coworkers, everybody else. So, really expand the thought process on everything that we talk about. So I do these lives again every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today I was a little late, but I usually post when I'm going on. So hopefully you guys got your subscribed and you have your notification bell on. So I appreciate everybody. We're going to go ahead and call it a day since I didn't see any other questions or statements. And I will see you guys on videos for the rest of the week, as well as on live. See you live next week, next Tuesday. And hopefully I will fix whatever happened with Facebook, that the people who were commenting on Facebook comments will also come up so that we can have even more participation. So y'all have a great day. Oh, you're welcome, Tamika. Y'all have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And always remember that you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.